Hey everybody, it's Christina. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to make a card, but one of the things that I wanted was a black and white striped background. Well, originally I was thinking a yellow and white striped background or an orange kind of yellow, and I didn't like the way it turned out. So I ended up going with black and white. And I thought I'd show you today how I made that and then how to put the card together. First thing we have is a piece of 80-pound Neenah cardstock. This is just the lighter 80-pound weight, and I added some tape to the back. Now, if you have a grip mat, something that will hold your cardstock, you can go ahead and use that. But today I thought I would just show you how to do it using a regular mat surface. I am going to adhere this down. I already have that tape on the back, and I'm going to use the grids on my glass mat to line it up. I just want to make sure, at least at the top, that I am straight across one of those lines, and I will apologize in advance if my head gets in there a couple of times, because I do need to be over the top of it so I can see where I'm lining things up. I also am going to use my mint tape. This is a great low-tack tape, and I am going to use that for masking off my area. So the first thing I'm going to do is each one of these squares on my glass mat here are 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to block off the top 1/4 inch. And I'm trying to do this without getting my head in the way. And then I'm going to come down a 1/2 an inch. And that piece was way too small. I need a longer piece than that. So I'm going to come down a 1/2 inch, which is 2 sections on my grid mat. And I'm going to tape that off. And then I have some ARCHIVAL ink that I'm going to use to create my black background. And then I also have a foam brush with a dome kind of applicator on the top. I'm just going to go in, I'm just going to lay that ink down. Now, I don't know how many times I'm going to have to go over this to get that nice, really dark black, but we're going to see what we can do as far as creating that. As long as I'm giving it a nice good pressure, I seem to be getting a nice black background here. I'm going to go over this layer a couple of times just to make sure, one, that I've got some good ink onto my foam applicator, because the further we get down this, the more that's going to collect on here and the easier it's going to get to create those lines. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to take this top layer, I'm just going to peel that one off, and then I'm going to come down, I'm just going to use my mint tape here, and then come down 2 squares. Again, that's a 1/2 an inch. So I'm leaving a 1/2 an inch, leaving this tape where it is, taking the top one and moving it down a 1/2 an inch from the bottom of this tape. So you can see I have 2 squares here. We're going to fill in another section here. Yeah, the more ink I'm gathering on this foam applicator, the easier it's going down. The first time it was a little tough just to kind of get that in there, but once I got that ink built up on the applicator, it's going much better. So again, I'm just going to take this top piece. Look at that nice crisp line. Ooh, that is gorgeous. And then we're going to come down 2 squares. I'm just going to use the same tape. Not to waste any tape, just keep using the same tape. And we'll fill this section in here. And then I'm going to take this layer and come down 2 squares. And that actually ended up perfect because I had started a 1/4 of an inch down from the top, and I'm blocking off a 1/4 of an inch at the bottom. So that works perfectly if you wanted to do a full panel. But I am going to end up cutting this down. But if you wanted to do a full panel, you can definitely just come down a 1/4 of an inch. This particular tape, I think, is an inch. Yeah, this tape right here is 1 inch wide. So, and because I'm gonna want more than just these couple of stripes, we're gonna go ahead and start doing more layers. I'm gonna take my bottom layer. I just love that crisp line. And for this one, I'm gonna come 1/4 inch down from the stripe at the top. So I'm just gonna line it up on 1/4 inch down. And then I'm gonna line up my other one, leaving again a 1/2 inch, which is 2 blocks, which will be 1/4 inch up from the other stripe there. So I hope that makes sense. That can get a little confusing. And we're gonna go in and fill that in again, making sure we have a nice dark coverage of the black ink. And you could probably just use any ink. I just happened to grab my ARCHIVAL ink because it was right in my quick reach drawer here. Making sure we have this nice filled in. And then I'm gonna make sure that's down. I want to double check, make sure we're 1/4 inch. Yeah, so that works out perfectly. So this one doesn't need to move. And we just need to take this top one and come down the 2 blocks or 1/2 inch and fill in that section there. And then we'll do that one more time down here. But you can definitely play around and get some either thinner stripes, thicker stripes. There's so much that you can do with just using some low-tack tape and ink to create different types of backgrounds. You can definitely do some at the diagonal. Just use the grid on your mat, or if you have something else that you use as your grid, you can definitely make some really cool patterns. We can even do stripes if we wanted to, make it more of a plaid look. Look at that. That comes out beautifully. And then we'll do one more, which is going to be 1/4 inch up from this one, or 2 blocks down from this one. And again, I'm just using my grid to see where I am masking that off at. And there we go. We created our own striped pattern for the back of our cardstock. I think that comes out really pretty. Do have some areas that are a little lighter, but some of this is going to end up being covered, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. One of my goals this year is to practice with my coloring of alcohol markers, and I was playing with my Olo markers and colored in this image. This is Clear Die and Stamp of the Month club that just is being released, and I went ahead and colored those in. I will leave a image so you know what colored, if you have Olo markers, and what colors I used. I really am enjoying the Olo markers. I find them way easier to use personally than Copics. Copics, I always felt like the colors just oozed out of the pens really quickly. I feel like there's a lot of control with the Olo markers, and I think that's helping me a little bit. And I'm really liking them. So I am going to tape all of the coordinating dies down, and then I will run this through my die cutting machine and get these all die cut out. All right, I have those all die cut out, and I am now going to cut my panel down here. So I have a piece of this yellow cardstock, which it measures 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to cut my stripes here down to probably 5 by 3 3/4. So it's 1/4 inch smaller than this piece. And then this will get mounted onto my card base. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to try to leave it so that I have maybe a black stripe at the top and the bottom. We'll see if we can get that to work out. There you go. That worked out perfectly. To cut, it's just above that first line. If you did 1/4 inch and you're using 1-inch tape, it's just above the top and just below the bottom of the black stripe at either end. I also did some more die cutting while I cut out my stamps. I have this beautiful detailed Picket Petite oval die, and then I have this one which comes, I think it's called the Fancy Ovals or something like that. It works perfectly, sort of, for the inside of this piece, so I'm going to use that, and I'll show you what I mean by sort of. I do have a little areas that kind of stick out in different places. I'm going to adhere this oval to this piece of the yellow cardstock, and it's not quite perfectly fitting, but I am going to cut off some of this, so I'm just going to allow some of this middle section that's cut out here just underneath the picket part to kind of stick out, but not very much. I need it to be just a little bit, and then even though it overlaps differently on this side, that's okay. That's where I'm going to cut it off. So we are going to just add some adhesive to the back of this, and then we'll adhere that down. I'm not worried about it on this side. More on this side is where I want to see that extra piece. So what I'm going to do now is we're also going to adhere our newly made striped black and white cardstock to our piece of the yellow cardstock. Get that on there, very nice. And then this is going to hang off the side, but then we're going to cut it off. This piece here is going to hang off the edge, and I do want to go ahead and pop this up. So I'm not going to adhere this down since I want to use some foam adhesive on the back. I did go ahead and line it up, decide where it's going to be, and then use my pencil and drew a line. And now I'm just going to take my paper trimmer, and we are going to chop that little section off. Perfect. And before I go any further, I did go ahead and take that off of this piece because I did want to add a little splatter to this. So I finally invested in a little splatter box, and I am going to add some of the gilded Brutus Monroe gilded pigment ink. So we just got to give that a good shake. I'm going to take a little drop of this and put it right onto this block right here. I don't need too much, just a little bit. And then I need my spray bottle. I'm gonna wet my brush here. And then we'll pick up our gilded and give a couple of taps. And then because I did this later in the process, I am gonna take my heat gun and dry that up a little bit. I think it needs some more splatters though. You can never have enough splatters. Okay, very pretty. I did go ahead and dry that gold piece, super pretty, and I apologize, my camera, I need to change the settings on my camera so that everything's not blown out white. But I did go ahead and dry that up, and we're just going to adhere that back into place where we had it. And then I am going to add some dimension to the back. I'm just using a thin foam, and we're going to pop this up onto our card. And then I'm just going to adhere this right onto my card. So I'm just going to kind of line it up using the edge and the surface of my desk to make sure that's nice and lined up. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card base so that we are all ready to go and just start building up our card. I think the gold from the little splatter here is throwing the white balance off on my camera, so I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and take my stamped images and start putting them in. I have my little honey pot right here. That's got some dimensional or foam adhesive on the back. I keep saying dimensional, but foam adhesive on the back. Then I also have this happy birthday that I'm going to add right to the front here. Now we did go ahead and add a little foam piece to the back of this, and then we're going to also use some liquid glue. But actually, since we have the tape runner out, let's not make a liquid glue mess today. Let's just go ahead and put our happy with some tape runner right there. And then we can start going ahead and doing our bees. Now, I think our larger bee, I am going to put a piece of foam adhesive on the back of that one so that that one sticks up a little bit more. And then that one will go right about here. And then our other bees, I think this one right here can look like it's coming in for some of the honey. And then we'll put our other one up at the top here. So again, I'm just going to use my tape runner since I have it out. Might as well just keep using that up. So this one will come in like it's coming in for a landing on our honey pot. And then we will do this one up at the top up here. Just like so. I felt like we needed to add a little bit extra, so I did go ahead and grab some of my matte black sequins, and we are going to just pop those up onto our card here. If I can get the glue to flow. One there, one there. We do our tiny one, another small one, and then our medium one. We kind of tuck right underneath the edge of our honey pot, just like that. And there we go. I really love how it turned out. Had so much fun creating that background. Can definitely do even thin stripes if you're really careful in between each one of these sections, or you could do a thicker stripe, thinner stripe, and just do a plaid. There's so many things you could do with some masking tape and ink. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.